So, good afternoon, everyone present here. I, Khyati Tongi, am a third-year law student working as a content manager for Fast Forward Justice. I would like to thank Amit sir, who is the founder, CEO, and editor-in-chief of Fast Forward Journal, for giving me this opportunity. Fast Forward Journal is an online organization. It has always aimed at presenting law in its simplest form as to make law accessible even for a layman to understand. It conceptualizes the efforts of law students at all levels and believes in working together for bringing a development in the present legal education system. To achieve this vision, various seminars, workshops, competitions, and moot courts are organized with the focus on drafting and researching skills. The Fast Forward Journal is currently publishing its fifth issue of second volume. In the end, providing opportunities for development of stakeholders of this field is the mission. To achieve this mission, today's webinar on how to choose your specialization in law is organized. Today's speaker is Sumitra Choudhary, ma'am. We welcome you, ma'am. Advocate Sumitra Choudhary, ma'am, is an advocate practicing at the Supreme Court. She has substantial international exposure and having earned a master's from Canada, and she has also worked 2 years in a corporate role in London. She has been championing the cause of prevention of sexual harassment at workplace and violence against women and children. She believes in making legal field simple for the common man and strives to make legal awareness reach the last mile of the social strata. She contributes to social causes through her writings, lectures, videos, awareness, camps, and appropriate representations on the global forum. We welcome you, ma'am, again. It is our privilege to have you as a speaker today. Now I welcome all the participants and request them to switch on their cameras because it is an interactive session, and also that if they have any doubt, they can ask in the chat box throughout the webinar, and also we have last 10 minutes resolved for any doubt resolutions. Now to throw more light on the subject of the webinar, I would like to hand over discussion to our guest. Ma'am, you may start now.
All right. Thank you, Khyati. First of all, I would like to thank you and the organizers for organizing such a wonderful webinar on such an important topic. Then I would also like to thank all the participants to be part of this important topic, as this is one of the most confusing topics that I've also faced while deciding what I wanted to do in law. So I think today's session, it has to be more interactive. So I would also encourage a lot of questions and a lot of doubt clearing so that it is easier for you to understand as in how you want to take your law career forward. So I will just start. I'll just give you a basic idea as in what our discussion will be like. So we will discuss it's post LLB. So I understand that all the students here are those who have either in the last year, final year of their law, or they are about to complete their law and get into either practice or are deciding what they want to do in their career. So I will not get into the line of, what all you could do after LLB as in judiciary and other things, but I will just keep the discussion limited to what you could do after LLB as in litigation or corporate. So probably that is what is going to help you understand what exactly and how exactly you would want to take your career forward after doing a LLB. Law is definitely a very exciting and noble profession because this is one profession where you can make a visible impact. So every day, every single day, you have an opportunity to make difference in the life of people. It not only requires a lot of hard work and dedication, but there are a lot of challenges involved in this journey. The journey of law does not end with becoming a lawyer. In fact, it intensifies your workload with the growing number of cases every single day. And as Justice Thakur had also said, I would like to repeat his thought that every single case is important for you. So make sure that you fight every single case as if it is your first and the last case. With this, I also want to encourage a lot of people to get into litigation, because litigation is a very lucrative field, although litigation has a very long gestation period. It is a very long learning process. The learning curve is huge. But then there are a lot of other benefits that come along with it. It definitely offers a plethora of opportunities, and we have a wide scope of career choice when it comes to litigation. So if you enjoy difficult situation, if you enjoy engaging in constructive, tactful arguments, if you think that you have those skills, you need to identify those skills within yourself before deciding what exactly you want to do or get into the field of law. As budding lawyers, I would also want to stress on the fact that lawyers have a very special role in the administration of justice. So there are certain values that you need to hold very strongly when it comes to law as a profession. These values that I really hold close to are truth, honor, and integrity, which even our ethics, our professional ethics say that you should keep these values intact. We are a bridge between the layman and the judiciary. As lawyers, we are a highly competent interface, which is a connection between the common man and the justice delivery system. So it is important that there are certain principles and values that we don't compromise on, and we ensure that these values are passed on from generation to generation, as we always say that we are in a noble profession. What is this noble profession? The noble profession that we are doing or intending to serve is the cause of justice. It is one of the biggest cause in the world, the cause of justice. So law is viewed as a public good, and executing or the procedure or the access to law definitely requires the assistance of lawyers. So as lawyers, we assess the court. As lawyers, we put forward the case of our client. So we have a particularly onerous and multidimensional role to fill. it's very important that we ensure that all our relationships, whether it is to the public, whether it is to the court, whether it is with a client, they are taken care of in a proper way. So, in all professions, it is always a bipartite relationship. So there are two parties, either the client or the consumer, the manufacturer, the consumer, the service provider, the client. But in our case, we have a tripartite relationship. So our relationship is with the public, our relationship is with the court, our relationship is to the client. We have to ensure that all the three roles are fulfilled in a fair and just way. When it comes to the court, we are definitely supposed to assist the court in administration of justice. So it is our role to ensure that proper facts are put in front of the court, and that we are able to assist the court to ensure that justice is delivered in a very short time. With client, it is definitely our duty to ensure that their case is put forward in the best possible way within the boundaries of being fair, being truthful, and putting forward the facts. Because we owe a duty to the client, to the court, and to the public. Because as lawyers, we are just not arguing in the court, but we are shaping a thought process. And when we are shaping a thought process, it is important that we look into it as to what thought process we are shaping. So law comes out of society, and it is very important that we don't confuse, as in don't take law as a profession so strongly that we forget that law has come from the society and those values have to be kept intact. So a lot of changes in the law changes along with the society. It is an ever developing field. There is nothing which can be said that, okay, this is constant and this is never going to change. So as advocates, we are specially trained in a very technical profession, that is law. So law is not a very generic profession. It's a very technical profession. And it's very important that we have a grasp over the subject matter. Coming to scope of law as a career. So we'll try to look at law as a career in various ways. As in when you try to decide that, how do I advance in the field of law as a lawyer? It is not just that, you argue in front of a judge, or you just argue the cases and you are a lawyer and that is litigation and that is your career. No, there is a lot of scope when it comes to law as a career. So based on various factors, we will try to understand law based on career option. Okay, so whether you want to get into litigation, whether you want to get into corporate, teaching, legal journalism, or paralegal for that matter. Paralegal is all other things that is connected to law, which you can do being a law graduate. Then we will look at choosing a specialization based on the type of practice. So basically, all law, every law, everything in law can be divided into either civil or criminal. So we will look into, if you want to enter into the civil side of litigation, what do you have to look into, or criminal side of litigation, what is it, what are the kind of expertise or kind of knowledge you'll have to build into. Then it is based on place of practice. So even when you decide that, this is where I want to start, or this is the court where I would want to build my law practice on, even based on that, you could decide your specialization. So considering the place as in the state where you're practicing, the hierarchy of the courts, whether it is the trial courts, the session courts, the high court, or the Supreme Court, where you want to start. So even here, I do have certain suggestions. So when I come to this, I'll discuss with you on this also. Then choosing your specialization based on industry specific laws. So there are a lot of industries that have come up, and based on those industries, if you think that you understand that industry very well, and that understanding the various facets of law related to that particular industry can help you grow as an expert in that particular industry. So industries like telecom, media, taxation, electricity, then there is IPR, there is aviation, medical negligence, it's a budding industry. Then you have RERA, that is an upcoming field now. Labor law, definitely, it has been there forever. Then you have the environment law. So these are some of the laws that you could look at when you want to look at a industry specific law. So it is very confusing because there are so many laws, there are so many acts that you don't know where you want to start your practice on. And there are so many courts, there are commissions, there are various forums, there are tribunals. So even that becomes confusing where you want to focus your practice on. So I will just take it one at a time to make it clear. So first thing is whether you want to get into litigation, whether you want to get into corporate, and you do a SWOT analysis on yourself, as in what are your expertise that you think will help you into litigation or into corporate. So corporate is a very budding field these days that everybody wants to get into one big name, a big firm. It is quite understandable because the salary packages are lucrative. But then when you choose LLB as your subject, or LLB degree that you want to do law, what is that basic one thing that keeps you into doing law? So I feel as a lawyer that the basic culmination of lawyer is into litigation, or till the time you don't get into litigation, you really don't feel that you have actually done law, or you don't understand the power of law. So I have done corporate myself for quite a few years, and of what I understand, corporate is also pretty interesting, but it's basically a desk job. As in, I would not term it as a desk job, but then it is very, I don't know what to say, it is very bound within certain boundaries, and it does not let you explore your skills and your talent as much as a field of litigation will give exposure. So corporate may at the max, it could be that you are into you are probably a legal document drafter, as in you're very good at drafting agreements, so there'll be a lot of client interaction, and then there'll be negotiations. If you're into mergers and acquisitions, there's a lot of paperwork involved when it comes to corporate. So there is contract management, there's contract drafting, there's a lot of analysis, there's a lot of report writing. You end up meeting with a lot of project management experts. So that's a different level of knowledge, subject expertise, and understanding that is required in corporate. So if you think that you are a person who could be, doing a lot of drafting, as in writing, reading, reports, analysis, then probably corporate would be a good option for you. If you, then I think that litigation is something that if you think that law is your passion, and that you want to excel in law, that you want to help people with the justice system, with access to justice, that you think that you want to serve the society, you think that there should be some changes that must be happening or taking place in the law, and you see there is a lot of scope when it comes to litigation, as in you are in touch with people real time, as in all the time. Then there is paralegal. So paralegal, I would say that paralegal is everything that is ancillary, that is connected to law, wherein probably you would not have enrolled yourself as a lawyer or as an advocate. You know that to be an advocate, you have to write the Bar Council exam, and you have to enroll yourself with the Bar Council of India. So if you're not doing that and you just want to get into paralegal, then there are a lot of opportunities for you, like legal journalism, you have opportunities to do law journals, then law reports, then legal commentaries. You have an option to write books if you're very good at research and you think that you can read into things, interpret it well. Then you could get into writing commentaries on the law and writing extracts of the Supreme Court judgments, as in what the judgment meant and what it was pointed at and what was the point of law and that was being discussed there. So these are various options other than litigation or corporate or teaching. If you do not prefer that, then these are some of these paralegal options that you can explore. So there are a lot of report writing and legal analysis that happens these days. So you must have seen a lot of firms have this knowledge cell which basically does a lot of research on the law, a lot of research on the judgments, a lot of research on latest developments, as in what is happening, because we are developing really fast and a lot of changes keep coming every single day, whether it is to do with cryptocurrency recently, to fake news, to WhatsApp, to Facebook. All these things have come recently. So there are a lot of changes that demand new laws to be passed. And who does all that research? So for everything, there's not a law commission that is sitting there, not for everything. It is these research, these knowledge centers who keep coming with questions and who keep posing questions to the government. And then there are these active lawyers who keep putting PILs and other social activists who keeps looking into all these issues which really require the attention of the court. So based on career option, you can choose whether you want to get into litigation, you want to get into corporate, you want to get into teaching. So for teaching, I would just want to tell you that you need a minimum LLM and NET exam or a PhD to get into teaching for law. Then in corporate also you have LPOs. So if you are just looking at getting a quick salary, then probably LPOs would be something that you would want to join. Otherwise, obviously litigation, that is the only charm that I see in corporate, in LLB. I'm not sure, everybody has their own interest. So if you think that you have the skills relevant to corporate, then corporate it should be. Ensure that you focus on developing your writing skills, your reading, your content, develop on your speaking abilities, develop on your negotiations, because corporate role will be a lot of client interaction. So there'll be a lot of negotiations, there'll be a lot of drafting. You will have to interact with various business stakeholders. So your communication and coordination will be tested there. When it comes to teaching, I am sure most of the LLB students have a natural teacher in themselves. That really brings them to getting into challenging situations and arguments. So teaching is another profession where you need to have your LLM, you need to have your PhD, you need to have your NET, and that is one field where you can really progress well. Paralegal and legal journalism, as I already covered. So these are some of the options that you have based on what kind of career you want to get in. Now, taking the example of litigation, as if you have made up your mind that you want to get into litigation, we will divide the type of practice based on civil or criminal. Because basically these are the only two fields that exist in law. It's either civil or criminal. So anything and everything to do with two individuals, any dispute between two individuals, between an individual and a company or an organization, or between organization. So all those are covered under civil. And criminal is anything and everything that is to do with a crime that has been defined in IPC. So if you fall under any of the criteria wherein any of the IPC sections is applicable on you, then it will fall under criminal. So civil and criminal are different majorly because of their procedural aspects. So it is not different as in the law is different, but procedural aspects. So a civil trial is very different from a criminal trial. And that is why you must be hearing a lot of people, if you are already lawyers, and if you've already practiced intern, people would ask you this question, okay, what is your area of specialization? आप क्या करते हो, civil या criminal? Because that is basically the only two branches that law can have. I will just explain you about a little more about the civil and criminal trial. As in, what are the kinds of subjects that fall under civil law? So, all your property disputes, all your family disputes, labor law, then intellectual property rights, all the laws which are civil in nature, as in the remedy of a resolution of which requires a monetary payment. So if the result is something to do with money or something where you will get a compensation, so that will fall under civil law. And criminal law is normally the one wherein a penal provision is allowed, as in for anything and everything that you do, there will be something related to a sentence. Sentence as in something related to going to jail or a penal provision. Not always a monetary provision, but a penal provision where physically you will have to suffer. So those kind of laws will fall under criminal law. So criminal law is also evolving, and a lot of new laws have come in when it comes to criminal law. There are these economic offenses, NDPS. So there are various laws that have come in criminal also, and even the criminal field has given a huge scope to the lawyers these days. Now, once you decide whether you want to do civil or criminal, you need to decide the place of practice. So the place of practice is whether it is the trial courts, whether it is high court or Supreme Court or the tribunals or the consumer forums or the commissions where you want to start your practice. So this is one thing that I was also confused with when I started. So when I approached a senior lawyer and I started my practice with him in the Supreme Court. He had a great piece of advice for me. He said that the actual knowledge of law lies in the trial courts. So till the time you do not have an understanding of what trial courts are like, or what happens in the trial courts, it will be very difficult for you to probably understand what had actually gone on the other side, gone wrong on the other side. So he suggested that probably you should have a look at the trial courts practice, because it is very flashy and it sounds very good when we want to put Supreme Court in front of our name as soon as we pass law. But I think law is one profession wherein the gestation period is so long, wherein there is so much to learn before we call ourselves as a full-fledged lawyer. There is a lot of knowledge gaining, there's a lot of reading, a lot of writing, a lot of interaction, and a lot of hands-on experience that is required before we really want to flash on those names of the courts. So my suggestion and a candid, honest advice to you all would be, starting at the trial courts will probably give you a leverage that a lot of lawyers would not have, those who have started at the High Court or Supreme Court directly. And the practice at these courts are also considerably different. Trial courts form the basis of our judicial function. So the very foundational courts need to have very good lawyers, because that is where a case builds. A case starts at the trial court, the session court, depending on the type of the case. And that is where the entire story or entire case is built. And that is where a person who really deserved to win the case may lose, or somebody who was not worthy may win. It depends on the kind of drafting, the kind of arguments, and the procedure of the trial court. So it is very important to understand the trial courts and the functioning of the trial courts and the procedures. Because High Court and Supreme Court law is basically on the legal points, as in your legal knowledge. It is basically on the a lot to do with what was missed out in the law, within the ambit of law. See, as lawyers, we are all within the boundary of law. We cannot go beyond law. No emotions, no other things work. It is only law that we need to focus on. See, having emotions and keeping those is good, but we need to know the law properly. Knowing the facts of the case and knowing the law properly. These two are the only ingredients which will help us be successful as a litigation lawyer. So in trial courts, you end up learning a lot of the procedural law. And sometimes there have been cases wherein a worthy party which could have won the case lost the case in Supreme Court because a certain procedure was not followed in the trial court. So just imagine if you had started in Supreme Court and you were not sure that trial court has this procedure, and if this procedure was not followed, I can argue on this point and the case can be dismissed only on this point. So that is why I say that it is very important that you do trial courts so that you know everything about the law before you reach High Court or Supreme Court. So even the Bar Council was contemplating having a certain number of years before, new lawyers can come to High Court or come to Supreme Court. There was a lot of opposition also to this, but I feel that there is a logic behind this, and the logic is that step-by-step learning or understanding at each level and then coming to Supreme Court would probably help everybody as a society. And we as lawyers have a bigger duty to the courts, bigger duty to the client, bigger duty towards the public. So to ensure that, we have acted in our full capability and competency, it is important that we have an exposure, an all-round exposure. So if there's a case that has come from consumer forum to Supreme Court, then you should know what exactly would have transpired in the consumer forum. And to know that, you may or you should have had an hands-on experience of a case that you would have argued before the consumer court. I'm not saying, or I'm not proposing that, for everything you will need to have a hands-on experience, but it is not bad. If you have that, it is really, really helpful. It will definitely put you onto a different level when you compare with others who may not have had that exposure. The initial 5 years of law are very difficult because, you are working under a senior, so there's a lot of work. I tell interns and I also tell new lawyers that you should not miss this opportunity of the initial 5 years. This initial 5 years, nobody's judging you. This is the time where you can make most of the mistakes and learn. So the more number of work you do during this time is the kind of knowledge that you're gathering for yourself. That is the kind of knowledge that will take you to heights, that will take you to places. So those 5 years should not be wasted, and you should not think that, okay, you're overburdened with work or, you're getting very worked up. You should actually take up that work voluntarily, because that will really help you get an exposure. When you're working under a senior, they may have a lot of cases of various courts. So it gives you an opportunity to go to commissions, to go to courts, to tribunals, to forums, to NGT, and you should not miss that opportunity. You should not restrict yourself to a certain court or a certain tribunal or a certain forum, because This is a time where you will learn what exactly happens in all those places. So those 5 years are really critical. That those first 5 years you focus on reading, arguing, studying, drafting, and taking as many different kinds of cases as possible under the senior. Uh, a lot of people who start independent as soon as they graduate, I suggest that at least 1 or 2 years should be spent under a senior or with a law firm where you can learn different types of cases. Being independent is good, but then initially you will only get certain types of cases. So you do not get exposure to everything. You only get certain types of cases, so you might develop your expertise in a certain field, but you may not have exposure to everything. So in a seniors firm, you will definitely have a lot of files to read. You will have an understanding of varied types of cases, and that will really help you develop your skills, your legal acumen, your understanding, your knowledge as a lawyer. So that is one. So I propose that, starting at trial courts, even SDM courts for that matter, revenue courts, they offer a plethora of opportunity for lawyers. There are so many cases. Those are very small petty cases, but there are so many cases that happens in SDM courts, in revenue courts, in trial courts, magistrate courts. After that, you should get into session courts. Once you get an experience with that, then you go to high court, then you go to Supreme. When it comes to choosing a specification in law, so our LLB in India is either that 5 years or 3 years, and it is very generic, as in you end up reading all the subjects and the basics of all the subjects. As soon as you're out of LLB, you don't know what to do, because what we read or what we read in college during that time is very different from what we practice in the courts. So that gap has to be bridged, and that gap is normally bridged by interning, by working under a senior for a year or two. So that is why I say that, to bridge that gap, to understand what exactly happens in courts, how does it happen, you need to work under a senior for some time and take maximum exposure to the various types of cases, so that you will be able to determine as in what interests you and what is it that you would want to get into. Coming to this is the so I just spoke about place of practice, as in where would you want to start. You would want to go to tribunals, you would want to go to commissions. So tribunals like NGT, CAT. So NGT is anybody who wants to specialize in environment law. So in India, LLM is where we can specialize, take a subject and specialize and get a specialized degree. But a specialized degree is not a certificate that you can specialize. It is a certificate as in, yes, you can specialize in that law, but then you need to know that very deeply, and for that you need practical hands-on experience. So in law, till the time you do not have practical hands-on experience, specialization becomes difficult. So you need to have practical hands-on experience. Now industry specific laws. So there are a lot of upcoming industries like the telecom, the media. Taxation is one more field where you can specialize. IPR is an upcoming field. So intellectual property rights, which again has two kinds of roles. So one is very clerical, as in filing the patents, filing the forms for copyright. The other is IPR litigation. And so that is again to do with courts and litigating in the courts. You have aviation industry, which is very specific, has its own laws. Then you have medical negligence. Okay, medical negligence. And this is another industry where you can, if you specialize in those particular laws, or if you see, for law, it is very important that you know what law to look for. It is important that you know where you have to go and look for a law that will give you a remedy. So that is how you specialize. So if it is medical negligence, then you should know that what are the acts, what are the bodies that supervise this or that monitor the medical field, medical industry. Then reading out, then knowing the procedures. As in, if there is a grievance, then you approach the state medical council. If the state medical council is not able to resolve your problem, then you go to the Indian Medical Association or Indian Medical Council. Then if they are not able to give a resolution, then you approach, then can you approach a consumer forum, or do you approach consumer forum directly if there is a medical negligence? Then if you do that consumer forum, where do you approach? Do you go to state consumer forum? Do you go to national consumer forum? So these are basically the things that you need to know. And this will not be written anywhere, or nobody will tell you that, you know, you are supposed to do this. So as soon as you do your law, you enroll as a lawyer, you are expected to know everything. And it is not easy to know everything because law is very vast. Even if today you go to a library or you want to pick up a Bear Act, you will see that there are like 400 types of Bear Acts that we have. Almost 376, 75 or 76, if I'm not wrong, is the number of Bear Acts, the acts or laws that we have. And it is practically not possible for you to even know all the names. Forget about knowing the content. So law is a very demanding career. In this, you need to read a lot. You know, reading habit, every single day you need to read. You need to be updated. You need to have a good writing skill because you will be drafting. You should have good analysis. You should have good speaking capability because the convincing power or the speaking ability is what will help you when it comes to court, when it comes to arguments. Then you need to know the court craft also. So these are basically a lot of things, a lot of skills that you need to have as a lawyer to practice and to be successful as a lawyer. And all these things don't come overnight. So anybody who has decided to take litigation as their career, please do not expect overnight magic to happen, but a constant, continuous approach towards learning and learning will really help you and take you to a different level in litigation. Litigation is a very rewarding career option, but it takes time. So surviving that time period is your major fight. If you're able to survive that, if you're able to come out of it and, you know, successfully complete that time period, then there is no looking back and there is no stopping. Now, when it comes to law as a career, so I will not get into teaching or legal analysis or document drafting. What you could do as a lawyer, as a litigating lawyer, is you could also be a legal advisor or a legal advisor to the government, to various departments in the government. You can be a panel counsel. You can offer your consultancy to various corporate firms. So these days, it is a dire need of the companies to have a legal advisor, because it has become so technical that they need the advice of a lawyer to fulfill their legal obligations and duties as directors, as companies. So you have a very good chance to give legal advice based on whatever the Companies Act is something that you need to have your fingers hands on. And then you can be a panel lawyer to various departments within the government. So being a panel lawyer will not restrict you from your other practice, but only will give you an opportunity that you can fight the cases of that particular department. But as individual lawyer, you cannot take any cases against that department. So there's a conflict of interest. So that you could do. Then government counsel, of course, it is there. For newcomers, it is difficult to be government counsel. Obviously, it takes certain time. But those who are newcomers, while you're practicing or learning under a senior, these are the various opportunities that you could look into, offering corporate advice, banks, tying up with the banks, sending notices independently, as in sending legal notices, because while you're in the firm, you would have learned how to send a legal notice. So that is something that you can take up independently. These are some of the sources with which you can, increase your salary while you're employed somewhere. So it is not basically salary, but your monetary income initially to sustain yourself for those 5 years. After that, you will not have an issue of monetary income, but during that time. But this will also give you exposure, as it will give you a variety of clientele and a variety of things to learn. So you should look at exploring this. Then I've already spoken about civil law, criminal law, and the kinds of laws that fall under civil law and criminal law. I also suggest that branching out in law is good. You should have a specific competence, as in you should probably have a specialization. You should definitely have a specialization. So once you start, or once you are into this profession of litigation, you should start working on which area of law interests you more, as in even within civil. So you have this labor law. So labor law is something where you'll have a lot of cases, because every other day there'll be an unemployment issue, every other day there'll be a firing, every other day retrenchment happens, strikes, some or the other right as an employee being taken away. So labor law is one area where you'll definitely have a lot of clientele. So maybe you can focus on that, labor law, employment law. Then you can focus on media law. It is a very specific law. It is growing. Although there is no law as such when it comes to media, but there are a lot of rules and guidelines, and with media increasing their scope of work, lawyers' scope of work is also increasing along with it. So media law is an upcoming field that you could look into. Cyber law is another field. With social media and technology being so prevalent, cyber law is something that you could look into, because there are so many crimes that are happening with technology. So then cyber law is very interestingly, it has two facets again, because in cyber law, it can either be a civil case or a criminal case. So when it comes to defamation, defamation falls under both civil and criminal. So you have a remedy of either taking it to civil or taking it to criminal. Then there are these economic offenses, white collar crimes. So that is to do with anti-money laundering, or the NDPS Act, and then anything to do with corruption. So these are also, but then these areas will fall under criminal, because most of the provisions or most of the penal action is to do with criminal. Wherever police is involved, that will become a criminal field of law. So decide accordingly, as in what interests you more, whether it is the civil or the criminal. So my advice would be that you should try both, try to learn both, and then see what attracts you more. So see, this learning period is a very interesting period. This is a period where you get chance to explore, and I think you should not back out on exploring your opportunities. So when it comes to litigation, you do your civil, you do your criminal, learn as much as you can, and then you decide what is it that makes you more happy. As in, are you happy doing family cases, property cases, partition, wills, these kind of things, intellectual property, or are you happy dealing with bail matters? Are you happy dealing with NDPS? Are you happy dealing with economic offenses, banking? A lot of fraud, misrepresentation that happens. So you'll have to decide accordingly, and that decision cannot come suddenly. You will have to go through that process to understand what is it that really interests you, or you really want to leave all that and be in a corporate role. See, for everybody, it is not possible to get into litigation, although I encourage people to get into litigation, because litigation really needs brilliant lawyers And to be a brilliant lawyer, you must have certain values, be ready to work hard, have a certain passion and dedication towards law, and you will definitely excel. Nobody can stop you from excelling in law. But you need to have some values in place. Do not compromise with those values, no matter what. Um, we, the lawyers and the judges, so the bar and the bench, are like two wheels of a carriage of justice. It is very important that we have a proper coordination, because there's a very dynamic relationship between the two of us, and we must ensure that we assess the court. We never mislead the court, and we do not make it difficult for the court. We can never ever make an innocent suffer knowingly. So these are certain values. If we uphold the dignity of our profession, if we maintain these values, there is no other profession that can be compared to law. Being a lawyer is being powerful, is having a knowledge which cannot be compared to anybody else. And this knowledge is not necessarily bookish knowledge. It has to be coupled with practical knowledge. Once you feel that power, there is no stopping by. You will feel that power. See, initially you might feel a little burdened, or initially you might feel that probably, okay, well, you are not sure what you're doing, or you don't know. You will be confused because there are so many opportunities. See, when there are 2 things to choose, it is easy to choose. But when there are 10 things, you don't know what to go for. So I again encourage all of you, if possible, get into litigation. Litigation is definitely a very rewarding career. Please hold on, have tolerance and patience for those first few years. Learn as much as you can. Those who learn in those first 4-5 years will definitely excel no matter what. Don't waste that time. Don't use that time as if it is college time and you're just gone there to have fun as in meet your colleagues, pass the day and come back. No, don't do that. Take it very seriously. Law is a very, very serious profession. By serious, I don't mean that you have to be serious in everything. You have to be sincere. Be sincere towards law. So once you do that, you will definitely see how the opportunities keep opening to you, and how things will get clarified to you as in what you want to do as a lawyer, or what you want to specialize into as a lawyer. With this, I'll close my session. If there are any questions, I will be happy to take up.
Thank you so much, ma'am. We have some questions. The first one coming in your way is by Abha Tumne. She has asked, should specialization be done in India or abroad?
Okay, good question. So it depends on what is the kind of specialization that you want to do. If it is international law, then I would say that, okay, yes, you can do it abroad. But other than that, mostly, see, laws are country specific. So if you want to specialize in a particular law, why not do it from the same country where you want to practice it? Because finally, end of the day, whatever you learn there, you will be comparing it with your own laws here, and you will have to deal within the ambit of the laws that we have here. So I would suggest that it should be done within India, although, for exposure, for greater knowledge, for later on contributing to the society or amending a law, yes, you can do that abroad. But my suggestion would be that you do it in India.
Thank you, ma'am. The next question is from Anushka. She is asking, what is the scope in Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code 2016 in future, as there is a temporary suspension of IBC?
Yes, that's a good question. There is a temporary suspension on IBC, and IBC code right from the beginning has been a very contradictory and confusing code for the lawyers who have been practicing in it. I'm not practicing in NCLT, but then in IBC, but then there are a lot of lawyers who have had questions right from the beginning, because there were a lot of contradictory clauses. And in fact, IBC is actually making it difficult for the businesses. So there were talks around scrapping it also. I am not sure what the future will be like, but then it looks a little dull to me.
Okay, that's right. And the next question is again from Abha, and she's asking, is media law included in corporate law, corporate area?
Media law, okay, see, media law again, it will have a lot of fields, as in media law will have contract law into it. Media law will also have a bit of criminal law or IPC into it. Media law will have, so it is, there will be a there will be a lot of facets of law which will be included into media law. So when you're dealing with a actor, actress, or any person whose contract is to be drafted, then you're dealing with a contract law, which is civil law. If you're dealing with a defamation in or an FIR on a media journalist or anybody for that matter, so then you're dealing with criminal law. Then you're also dealing with civil and criminal both when it comes to defamation. So since there is no media law as such, there is only conduct and rules and guidelines. You will have to look at various other different laws which are supporting laws to this. So it is not corporate. Uh, it is corporate. It is considered corporate till the time you're only restricted to documenting. But as soon as it comes to court or goes to the police, it becomes litigation.
Ma'am, the next question is from Anushka. She's again asking, to get into corporate, is it necessary to have a good grasp on Companies Act?
Yes, it will definitely help. You need to have a good grasp on Companies Act because corporate will deal into a lot into business laws. So business laws, yes, corporate companies law is one law that you need to know. There are other laws also. So when you're into corporate, you may be doing a lot of contracts, you'll be doing a lot of shareholder meetings, shareholder agreements. There could be discussions around transactions, mergers, acquisitions, employees. So again, companies law is good, but then look at the entire company as a organization. When it has employees, you will also have employment law coming in place. When you have individuals or persons, then all the other laws also play. Contracts, contract management, contract law, specific relief act, so all the laws will come into play. Yes, but yes, knowing companies law will help you understanding the working, the liabilities, the duties of the company, of the directors, of the auditors, and everybody else connected to it.
Right. Ma'am, the next question is Seep Gupta. The question is, what is the advantage do we get to do LLM from foreign, and also about scholarships and all? He's asking this because you have experience from London. So what about settling in abroad and doing LLM?
All right. So in London, I was working. I did not do my LLM from London. I was working there. But then, other than having a flashy value, LLM from abroad will give you broad exposure. It will give you broad exposure, as in you will be able to compare it with your own country's laws and will be in a better position to suggest amendments at a later stage. Maybe tomorrow, if you end up getting into a position with the law commission, there's a law commission that is being constituted every few years, which looks into certain areas of laws. So probably if you would want to give your knowledge or your understanding or learning and help in contribute in amending those laws, yes, it could be helpful, or it will help you in your arguments when it comes to litigation that you can compare. See, what happens, a lot of foreign judgments are not binding on us or our courts, but a lot of times when there is no proper precedent, the courts end up accepting those judgments or accepting that the other countries have various laws in that way, in whatever what they have acknowledged or what they have been following. So in that way it can help.
Ma'am, that's right. Then the next question, Anushka again. She is asking, please can you talk more about taxation law, as in how should we go about it?
Taxation law. See, taxation law in India is a very lucrative field, and it's a quite a demanding field. I haven't had experience of taxation law, but then since we have a variety of taxes that are being levied in India, whether it is GST, whether it is customs duty, real estate tax, income tax. So there is a lot of scope when it comes to taxation, and those who are practicing into taxation, they did not have to venture out into any other field. You know, they have set up really good practice within the taxation field itself. So, estate planning is one area that I would request you to look into, because estate planning is something that is not being done in India. But you know, taxation is definitely a very good field if you understand numbers and taxes well. So, if you have interest in taxation, you should definitely get into it. It's a very rewarding field.
Ma'am, the next question is, what is the expectation from the candidate to get into corporate?
Expectation from candidate to get into corporate, yeah, it's a huge challenge to explain that what is the expectation. But knowledge of basic laws, your ability to express those laws if questioned, as in, see, be very honest and candid about what you know and what you don't know. If you don't know something, it is a good idea to just say that you don't know about it, rather than, you know, beating around the bush, because that does not give a good impression about it. uh, Having good writing skills, so when you write your resume, that itself will give an impression or an idea, as in, you know, what are your skills. uh, Having good knowledge about the understanding of contracts will help you. Having knowledge about companies act will definitely help you. Otherwise, it is drafting, analysis, writing, speaking that you should focus on when it comes to corporate law. If there is any specific question, then I'll answer that.
Yeah, okay. The next question is, what is the role of in-house counsel and what type of work they do?
Okay, the role of in-house counsel is huge, and in India, it is it is in a very nascent stage wherein it is building up slowly. But then, budding in-house counsels have a huge responsibility when it comes to the inner functioning of the company, as in all the legal compliances, all the audit, all the contracts, all the stakeholder management, agreements related to vendors, related to anything and everything that the company is getting into, right? Any business transaction the company is getting into. So when it comes to their legal litigations, then it is also the role of the in-house counsel to ensure that they engage an external counsel who can take up their litigation, and the litigation is fought appropriately, as in they give out all the in-house counsel heads the external counsel by giving all the information, relevant documentation, so confidentiality, data protection. There's a lot of things that the in-house counsel is supposed to do. He is ideally supposed to streamline the entire legal work within the department. So there's a huge burden on the in-house counsel, and this is one role which will give you good exposure to leadership, good exposure to coordination, to team management, and to multifarious uh, facets of law. So, you know, you're doing contract law, you're also dealing with employment law at the same time, then you're also dealing with stakeholder management, then there is shareholder meetings and other things that you end up into. Then you have these legal notices that sometimes in-house counsel prepare themselves. So where there is generic work, for example, some of the banks, they send out legal notices. So some banks, they have panel wherein they have external lawyers, external counsels who do their work. But some banks have standard templates and their in-house counsel does it. So it's a very multifaceted role, in-house counsel.
Right, ma'am. The next question is, what do we? One, just a second. Which? Which specialization in law is beneficial for opportunities in government jobs to get government jobs?
Okay, so government job, I think there is a Indian Legal Services. That is an exam that you need to write to become a law officer with the government. Um, and government departments like ONGC and these PSUs, public sector undertakings, they also take lawyers directly. They hire lawyers. I think they also have certain criteria based on those exams and all they take. So for that, it would be industry specific laws that you should know. So wherever you're applying, so if you're applying in oil and gas, then make sure that you know the laws related to oil and gas, because those are particularly the questions that will be coming up to wherever you are, whether it is government or private. Certain laws are fixed, as in uh, real estate, contract. So even if it is a government property, then you'll have to see whether it falls under Public Premises Act or does it fall under private property. If it is private property, then what are the lease, license? Those are the things that you should know. Similarly, if it is into oil and gas, then you should know what are the laws related to oil and gas that the country has. What do they do? Is it drilling of oil that they do, or is it supply? Then you need to know vendor management. So it is basically those, there are some basic laws that will be applicable everywhere. So knowing those laws will really help you. So for example, if anybody is into litigation and either civil or criminal, they need to know the Limitation Act. They need to know the Evidence Act. Because if you don't know these two, whether it is civil practice or criminal practice, you will not be able to handle your case effectively. So similarly, whether you want to get into government sector or public sector or private sector, there are few basic. See, what do these companies do? First thing, they will be doing some business. So ensure that some basic business law knowledge you have. Then they will have people, manpower. So definitely they will have employment related issues. So you should know those employment laws. Then they will definitely get into contracts, whether it is with the vendors, with the other people. So you should know contract law. So these are some basic laws that you should know. Once you know these basic laws, other advanced laws or specific laws can be added onto it. As in, it will be more easier for you to understand those specific and uh, specialized laws.
Right. Now the next question is, after completing LLB from India, can we practice abroad, or is a law degree from one country recognized worldwide? And do we have to learn anything additionally to practice in another country, or can we be on the rolls of two countries' bar council simultaneously?
Okay. That's a very good question. So, LLB from India will be recognized in India only as an LLB, and to practice here also, you will have to write an exam, pass that exam, and enroll with the Bar Council. Similarly, if you go to any other country, whether you go to American Bar Association, America, you go to London, wherever you go, you will have to pass an exam there. So there is a basic exam to come to a certain level. You'll have to pass that exam. Now every country has a different credit system. So America and London, they may have different credit systems. So the number of years of our study here may not fit exactly into the credit system of that country. So you may be required to take additional 2-3 credits to come to that certain mark. Once you get those marks, then you appear for that exam. You pass that exam, that is when you get enrolled there. So it is important to get enrolled before you practice anywhere. So as paralegal, you can practice. Paralegal don't need enrollment. But if you want to practice as a lawyer, then you will need enrollment. And for enrollment, you will have to look at that specific country's rules and regulations regarding the enrollment. Get yourself up to that mark, get that certificate or degree up to that mark, and then write that exam, get that enrollment. Once you have that, only then you can practice that. I think Canada is one country that is an exception to this. Of what I know, I may be wrong. I'll have to check. But Canada recognizes India's law degree is what I have known. So
Right, ma'am. The next question is: does doing internship makes a difference during the 5-year program? Because these days seniors do not really give work to interns.
Internship makes a huge difference as students, because when you go for internship, there are a lot of areas of law, or areas of practice that you get to learn, not as an understand कि लॉ में कोर्ट क्राफ्ट में या कोर्ट प्रैक्टिस में एग्जैक्टली exactly क्या होता है और इस तरह की चीजें भी है. टू नो दैट you definitely should take your internship very seriously, whether whoever the senior is. And there's one tendency among law students that they just want to go behind one name, and there are like everybody who's applying to that particular firm or that particular senior. My suggestion to you would be any lawyer who has a good practice of 9 to 10 years, try to get an internship, because those lawyers will be able to give you more time and give you more exposure to the different types of cases. Getting working under a very renowned senior is good, but remember that that renowned senior will never have time to interact with you, so you will not be able to make the most of your internship. So try to work with a reasonably known lawyer. By reasonable, I see known lawyer. What does it mean to be a known lawyer? There's nothing called known lawyer. Everybody is a known lawyer. Every lawyer is a raja in themselves. Okay, so ensure that somebody who has a variety of cases, who can give you good exposure, is good to go and do an internship with. I would not tell you to go by the names of the firms or the rankings of law firms to get an internship, but somewhere where you can get an exposure, not just while away your time. So that's my suggestion.
And the next question is: what are the benefits of doing specialization in constitutional and administrative law?
Wow. It would be great if you can do specialization in constitutional law and administrative law. There are a lot of benefits. Most of the matters that come to High Court, Supreme Court are constitutional matters. So our constitution has given certain rights and duties to us also and to the states also. If you can understand those rights, and if you can, help the society or the court learn more about, or try to expand or elaborate the definition of it, nothing like it. There is a huge scope in constitution law. Constitution is the basis of our law, so if you can do constitution, nothing can be compared to it. So please, if constitution interests you, definitely do constitution law. Administrative law is again a very interesting field. If you do it, it will definitely, you will have huge number of cases when it comes to administrative law, because administration and bureaucracy is something that the lawyers really need to take seriously. A lot of our decisions, our state's decisions, are dependent on the reports given by the bureaucrats and the way the bureaucracy is working. So a state's success in terms of economy, in terms of growth, is dependent a lot upon the bureaucrats and their working style. So it is very important that, if you do administrative law, and if you understand it well, and if you can suggest changes to it, and if you think you can bring in revolution, nothing like it. Please go ahead and do it.
Now the next question is that the person is not a very great speaker, but that person wants to make a difference in society and help the people. So can that person do that without going into litigation?
Yes, research work. So if you want to get into research, there are a lot of firms who engage content writers and researchers, legal researchers. So if you don't want to get into litigation, if you don't want to get into corporate firm also, my suggestion is that you get attached to a good senior who will appreciate research work, because even judges for that matter have legal researchers with them. So that is one industry that you can that is one area that you can explore. Legal research is a very demanding but growing field, because legal research demands a lot of time and understanding of the law. Um Once you attach to a senior who is able to understand your legal research and that legal research really helps him, trust me, he will go places. So, if you look at big lawyers in our country, for example, if you look at KK Venugopal sir, there is a legal researcher attached to him who is present with him in most of his matters. He has made a name for himself in legal research. So you imagine that sir is arguing something and that legal research is done by him. So that's a very big thing. So a lot of times, even if you don't want to argue, argument and litigation has, I mean, it's not that litigation and arguments goes hand in hand. There are arguing councils, there are drafting councils, there are legal research team who does a legal researchers, senior legal researcher. So legal research is also a very interesting field. If books attract you, if writing and reading is what attracts you, yes, you should explore that field. There is a good opportunity in that. So law has a huge scope. There is so many areas that can be explored and you can work into. So typically, initially it was thought that law only means that just wearing your band gown and going to court and arguing. It is not that. It is a huge field. There is so much scope. So legal researcher, yes, you definitely have a good scope. Please go ahead and do it. If that is what interests you and if you've identified that your skill lies there, then you will definitely excel.
Ma'am, Sneha is asking, what are the benefits of doing specialization in personal laws?
Oh, there are a lot of benefits in doing personal law. See, when I joined law, I saw that personal laws, uh, whether it is family laws, matrimonial, it is looked into as a very easy, convenient field. That okay, family law to koi bhi kar lega. It is not like that. This is one of the most complex laws. Personal laws is one of the most complex laws because even if you try to be within the ambit of law, you cannot leave emotions out. You cannot leave societal norms out, and it is very difficult to put everything hand into hand and that and then ensure that you have argued your case in a proper way or the right remedy has been achieved. It is very difficult. So personal laws, it is very demanding. Please research into personal laws as much as you can. If you think you can specialize in personal laws, we really need lawyers who specialize in personal laws because family law or matrimonial law is something that has been taken up very lightly. There are just few legislation that have been passed without putting thought into it. Day in and day out, we see people suffering on personal laws because there was some provision that was not thought about properly before introducing, and because of which there is so much travesty of justice. So, personal law, please, a big thumbs up.
And the next question is, can you explain more about cyber law and its scope of choosing it as a specialization?
Cyber law, great. Cyber law has a huge scope. I would want to take names of few renowned lawyers in cyber law space. So, Pawan Dugal sir, and then there is Neeraj Arora sir, who have developed an expertise in cyber law and they exclusively work in this space. If you have interest, try interning under them or under any of the lawyers who had worked with them. That will really help you broaden your horizons. So when it comes to cyber law, try learning about international bodies that are into cyber law. Try to connect with international lawyers who are into cyber law. Try to understand what are the areas of work they are doing because cyber law conferences, cyber law discussion forums have increased and there are more and more people getting into cyber law. So whether it is to do with the criminal side of the cyber law, whether it is to do with the technology side of the cyber law, try to understand cyber law and its implication. Try to see that which side interests you more. Try to go into various conferences or webinars, even webinars. For that matter, to understand that in cyber law, what are the various scope or areas that you can get into. So recently, I think there was a conference, an international conference held, wherein only the top 10 cyber lawyers had gathered, and they were drafting certain international law. So, with cyber law, it is not just litigation, but you can get into drafting, you can get into more research with cyber law, you can get into practicing cyber law itself. So there is a concept of cyber cells that have come out. So cyber cells are majorly handled by the police, but definitely they will need lawyers there. So try to engage yourself with different areas of cyber law, as in try to find out what exactly is happening in the field of cyber law and what scope it provides. So once you attend these international conferences, or you attend these webinars, you get into dialogue with lawyers across the world who are working into cyberspace. I think you will understand the scope more, because see, there is abuse that is happening on cyber space. There is so that falls under criminal. Then there is a lot of defamation that is happening. There is fake news that is happening. There's a lot of information, data protection, and confidentiality. Then yeah, so I think these are the various aspects that you can look into, that even if you choose one field out of this, you will know where to specialize within the cyber law also. I hope that I have answered that question.
Yes, ma'am. And the last question being, which fields and specialization benefit an LLM from foreign country?
Which field? International commercial law is what I would say. That if you're doing LLM from abroad, try to do either international law or corporate commercial law. That will give you good insights, because internationally they follow similar practices. So that will help you more.
Ma'am, I'm unmuting Seep Gupta because the person is having like various questions. So I'm just unmuting. Then you
Sure.
may ask them directly.
No problem.
They're like various questions. Like first being,
Hello.
yeah.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, Steve. Good evening.
Yeah, actually, first of all, I'm not from NLU, but I have applied in top tier firms like Trilegal and like various DSK, Wadi and Gandhi. But
Yes.
I think I've never done any firm internship because of COVID-19. I'm unable to. So I want to ask, they've rejected me. So how to start in a corporate law? Like if I want to go in a corporate firm, because like directly my college does not have like that sort of placements, and most of the students are in my college are more into like for civil judge and for judicial aspirants. So how to
Right.
start a career in that or internship?
Okay. So you have
And
questions
second
related to
question,
getting
on my
into
yeah,
corporate law.
and second question is related to regarding doing LLM from institute of like any University of Toronto in Canada or like any university. How to get scholarship or how you did, how you applied? Just wanted to know the procedure. Thank you.
All right. Okay, perfect. Okay. So, coming to your question on corporate law, my suggestion to you would be, see, there has been a debate of NLU and non-LLU students for time immemorial. Leaving that apart, don't law is law. You've read the same law. They have read the same law. So, except for the institute from which they did, there is no other difference. First, have confidence in yourself. It does not make a difference whether you're from NLU or not. Never ever bring that up. Don't say that I'm not from NLU. You don't have to bring that up. That is not a differentiation. It is not differentiating you, or that you've lost an opportunity to become a good lawyer. No, it is not like that. Wherever you've done your law from, it doesn't matter. You can definitely be the best of the lawyers, dependent on your dedication and hard work. Okay, now the question of getting into corporate law firm, and that a lot of corporate law firm look into a basic criteria of being from NLU or non-NLU. See, leave apart the top tier law firms for the time being. Try to see the middle tier firms. who can probably give you an opportunity. If that is not happening, try to get into a company under an in-house counsel, because that is where you will learn your skills. Once you gain those skills, then try reapplying to these corporate firms if you think that that is where you want to work into. Okay, so that approach should help you. Coming to LLM from a university abroad. So I did my LLM from India only. I did my studies abroad, which was a MS, which was a master's, and I had done it in 2002. So at that time, I'm sure the procedures were different, and now it is much more easier to get a scholarship. I had also had a scholarship from Stanford University in USA, but I did not have the opportunity to go and do it. But you will have to go to the particular university which you're interested into, find out the process of admission. So try to reach out to the admissions department. They will give you the list of compliances or list of documents or list of things to do for getting or for securing an admission. Ask for a scholarship procedure, what they have. They'll give you all the details based on, because every university will have a specific procedure and specific timelines. So you'll have to go and check with those universities. So basically, they have a course starting every September and every February. So since we are in June already, I would not suggest September. Whenever you want to apply for any course, you should have 7 to 8 months in your hand. So apply for a February course next year, February, and try to get information from the admissions department. Try contacting the admissions department of that university right now, as in this week. You can send out an email to them. Most of the departments' email addresses and other things are available on their website. Ask them, they will send you detailed information on what is required out of you. Once you go through it, if you have any more questions or any other doubts, as in how do you do a certain thing, then you can contact me.
Well, ma'am, that's it. All the doubts have been cleared. And if they have any doubts, they can contact you personally.
Yes.
So thank you so much, ma'am. It was such an insightful discussion, and we are privileged to have an opportunity to have you with us. And also, I'd like to thank all the participants for making this webinar successful.
Thank you so much, everyone. It
Thank
was
you.
wonderful.
Thank you.